Hello and welcome to Bags of Action. We're back for a Christmas special. Ho, ho, holy shit. My name's Steve.
I've got a machine gun.
Absolutely. My name's Steve, and join me, as always, is Pete.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm here as always.
We're back for this special episode. When we're back for normal episodes after that, we don't know, but enjoy the Christmas cheer that we bring with a film about men being shot.
Yeah, we haven't picked a film that's even though there are lots of action movies set at Christmas. Hello, Shane Black, if you're listening, watching. Lethal Weapon, Long Kiss Goodnight, etc., etc., etc. We've done most of them, but this time we've picked a film that's got nothing to do with Christmas at all.
Nope, but it looked fun, and we wanted to talk about it anyway. Exactly. So here we are. And this
nice and recent as well.
Exactly. This is the 2021 film Wrath of Man, starring our favorite from Secret Invasion. It's Jason Statham.
It's Jason Statham indeed. And a stellar cast, it must be said. But then it's Guy Ritchie, and Guy Ritchie's good at pulling together stellar casts.
Some of them are brilliant, like Holt McCallany, can't even say it, McCallany, who I've watched in Manhunter.
Right, okay.
The David Fincher TV series. I've seen him in that. He's so good in that. He's so good. I've seen him in a bunch of other stuff.
He's one of those people I'm like, I don't know, I've ever seen this person before in my life, but he's not particularly young. So either where's he been or where have I been? What have I not been watching? So yeah.
You will have seen him in stuff. If I go back to his IMDb, he's in Fight Club.
Okay, I've seen
that. There you go. He's in The Losers. What else has he been in? He was in Justice League, apparently. Jack Reacher, Never Go Back, when he was Tommy Cruise. What else was he in? Blue Bloods. I watched a lot of that. I don't think you have.
I watched bits of the first.
Bullet to the Head, Gangster Squad, Hijacked.
Oh, he's obviously
he's done a lot of stuff.
I obviously just not noticed him enough.
Okay. Josh Hartnett, we know from
which good. Did you see Josh Hartnett back? Because he he was a big name and a big deal, and then kind of either disappeared or just didn't see him in anything. It's harder these days. Like, Kevin Costner doesn't do much. Yes, he does. He's got a very successful TV series. Yeah, that's the thing. People go to TV and they do 4 seasons or something, and you go, I haven't seen them in years. Like, no, they're fine. They're just not in movies at the moment.
They're not watching. You're not watching the thing out of the millions of things that are out there now that you could potentially watch. He's been doing Yellowstone for 5 years. Oh, all right.
Steve, it's not that I just can't keep up with shows. I can no longer keep up with channels. There are channels out there that I've never heard of.
Yeah.
I guess everyone ran to Pluto to watch Star Trek Discovery. Very strange service, but never mind. Never mind.
I will not be going to Pluto ever. Anyway, a favorite of mine is in it is Jeffrey Donovan, who of course I love from Burn Notice over the years, but he was in both of the Sicario films as well.
I haven't seen the second one. Another one of my favorites, Eddie Marsan, is in this, who is from Ray Donovan. He's called Terry in Ray Donovan, and he's called Terry in this, which is very confusing.
Okay.
There's a lot of British actors in this playing Americans.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy who used to be in EastEnders, who I haven't seen since he was in EastEnders.
Go on.
Who now has grown a beard. The guy with the beard, the kind of the guy he confronts him at the pool game. He's not in it very much. He's the guy who opens the door.
Yeah.
He used to be in EastEnders as an abusive husband.
Alex.
He was a Scottish guy, I think.
Right. Okay.
And so he was in it, and then there was the blonde lady in it. I think she's Neve Algar, who I saw in a very good film. There's a 5-minute review of it if you'd like to find out more on the YouTube channel, called Calm with Horses. Horses?
Calm with Horses.
Calm with Horses. That's a different film.
That's
the porn parody.
Yep.
Calm with Horses, but the actual film is called Calm with Horses, which is good. I won't say how good it is because that would spoil the 5-minute review. But,
but it's good.
It's good. It's worth watching. So and I think the interior scenes were all shot in London. I found out from reading up, which will explain why there's quite so many Brits in the cast.
But there's some really big names like Andy Garcia. I mean, he's not in it much, and
he never goes indoors because he didn't come to London. See.
Oh, he starts to go indoors, but then actually goes indoors.
Oh no, don't come in because that's in London and you're in America, and that's a flight.
Yeah, right. Okay. And of course, he's building a name for himself, but of course, he's most famous for his father, and that of course is Scott Eastwood.
Now he looks so much like his dad. like it's scary. I know people do look like their fathers. I know that's a thing. I understand genetics.
Yes.
But there's times, and he's got a beard, and it's very like 70s Eastwood.
Yeah.
And there's times he looks at the camera, and it's quite unnerving how much he looks like him.
He's been doing a fair bit, Scott Eastwood.
Lots of sticks like Scott Conn, but basically just to have a son called Scott, and they'll follow in your footsteps. That's how it works in the acting world.
Because the first thing we saw him in probably was Gran Torino.
Yes.
Where he had to kind of audition like 4 or 5 times before his dad gave him the part. Because he's like, no free rides. No, if you're not good enough, you don't get the part. That's just how it is. And so he eventually got it. And but he's been in like Suicide Squad and Fast and Furious and Pacific Rim and, you know, loads of stuff. He's certainly building a good acting profile. But yeah, this was a really good part for him. By the way, we're going to spoil Wrath of Man.
But it's just come out on Amazon in the UK, so it's a bit confusing. It's an Amazon original, but that doesn't mean that Amazon made the film. It was going to have a cinema release, but because of COVID, it didn't. And in certain countries, it went to the cinema. In other countries, it went to different services. So in the UK, Amazon picked it up, and the same as Netflix. If they pick up something for distribution, they label it as an original. But I was a bit like, oh, they've got Guy Ritchie to make a film for them. And then I was like, oh, no, he didn't. It was for Warner, but actually it ended up at Amazon. But if you are in the UK, then it's on Amazon. And I'd imagine it was in the cinema, I think, last year in the States. So if you're in the States, there's probably some streaming service.
Okay.
We'll have it.
But yeah, we're going to do some spoilers, so you have been warned. So the film, as you said, is written and directed by Guy Ritchie, but it's not a Guy Ritchie styled lock stock style film.
No, I guess...
Swearing every 3 seconds and the Cockney geezers and
I think the films that I think of as pure Guy Ritchie films Lock, Stock, Snatch, Revolver. So The Gentleman, I think, was the last one that I saw, and then he's got a new one coming which is called Operation Fortune, I think.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Features quite a few of the cast from this film. But then he's got his other things like the Sherlock Holmes movies, Aladdin, of course, which I forget that Guy Ritchie directed the Aladdin.
I haven't seen it.
The live action Aladdin film. Directed by Guy Ritchie
with Will Smith.
Yeah, that was Guy Ritchie.
Okay.
I would have to read it. I was like, just check that again. No, that was Guy Ritchie. And this is closer to his kind of film, but I guess it's US based, and it was a French movie.
Yes,
which you can pronounce better than I can.
Le Convoyeur.
Yeah.
Convoyeur, maybe.
Which did not star Christophe Lambert, I don't think. But that was from like 2002, and that did quite well. And it's kind of, I'm interested to see. I'd like to watch the French one actually to see as a comparison. I might do that and do a 5-minute review of that just to confuse myself and the audience.
Sure,
maybe at some point. But it's structured like a French film. It's not structured like a typical Hollywood movie.
No. So they set up the premise of the film fairly early on, and you can probably guess some of it, but then it's broken into parts, and then it's an atypical timeline because it's not told in a linear fashion. You kind of jump back several times to then catch you up to the present, and then they go to a totally different point of view that hasn't been introduced and you haven't seen really, which is also kind of atypical, 1 for an action film and 2 for an American film. You don't really get that. Normally you would have been introduced to characters a bit and had both of them in parallel, or at least seen something of them. Whereas in this, we don't see anything of the person he's after, apart from in a very blurred image. I tell you what, there's some of the kind of 3 months later, 5 months later, 4 months later, got a bit annoying. I'm like,
and then the past. I'm like, hang on, is that the past from we were in the past and it's gone forward? Has it gone forward from where we started or from where it was in this bit of the story?
So there's a couple of months where they didn't need the time stamp. You would have worked out where it was from what was going on. I'm like, you kind of overdone it. You've over-egged it at that point, which is, it's a minor thing. But to begin with, this film feels like Taken in a way. Like, it's a very simple premise.
Yeah.
Man has someone close to him done bad. He wants revenge and goes to kill them all.
And the trailer I think I saw originally, I don't think it was a trailer. I think it might have just been a scene, because I've seen the trailer since. I was like, this is nothing like I expected. Watch the trailer. I was like, oh, that's quite like the film. But I think it was either an earlier trailer or a scene or something that was very much almost like Hard to Kill turned up to 11. It's like, or Death Wish or something. Like, angry man, kills loads of people. And that's what I went into this film expecting. I wasn't expecting like a deconstructed movie with 3 different sets of viewpoints, kind of, and 4 distinct sections. It took me, so when the like about half an hour in, it kind of flipped and I went, oh, okay. All right. I kind of knew something was coming, but not that.
But it's the very beginning of the film. It says a dark spirit, and I'm like, what is that? The name of the film in French or something? Why is it? I thought it was Wrath of Man, and then it's a dark spirit. I'm like, what does that mean? And then you find out about half an hour in, and you go, oh, okay. And then the next kind of label comes up, and I'm like, okay, now I'm with you. But it's not a normal kind of, you killed my son, now I'm going to kill all of you, and like it's not that.
But it starts like, it makes you think it is at the start, I think, because
it's Statham and it's
Statham,
Richie,
it's exactly, and he turns up and it's very male. It's very,
that was a little bit.
We're all in the cup. We're all driving security vans. Hey man, and this is him. This is him, and it's like testosterone overload.
And even the woman was like, are you a man? No, are you? It was like the Vasquez kind of. It felt like that really vibe. Like, shouldn't you get changed in the men's locker room? Or shouldn't you get changed in the women's? And I was just like, oh, this isn't good. I wasn't enjoying it at that point. I thought,
no, I wasn't.
This is putting me off. But that kind of went away like fairly quickly.
Yeah, and most of the characters did too. That was the thing that was a bit. So it's, again, we are spoiling it. So what I liked about the start actually is, at first I was a bit like, oh, it's really annoying. You're deliberately not showing us something, and that's quite annoying.
Yeah.
I'm like, and if the whole film is going to be from this kind of POV, but POV of nobody, so like it's this kind of point of view you can't quite see out there, but I think maybe we're looking at it from the perspective of a bag of money. That's the only way because it can't.
Whole film is told from position of a bag of money.
I was like, that's weird, and I was like, there's obviously a reason for
this.
Very
French.
There's obviously a storytelling reason for this, and I'm like, is this really clever, or am I frustrated? Do I just want you to move the camera over there? And it's like, well, you obviously don't want us to know what this is yet, but then later it is okay, and there's some interesting like camera work and stuff at the start of it, but it is that kind of. But I think it is building that to me, there's 3 gangs in this film. And again, if you haven't seen it, please go and see it first, come back. Mm-hmm. And it kind of goes, well, there's the security crews who are getting picked off kind of one by one. Then when it flips, it's the organized criminals. And then when it flips again, it's the ex-soldiers turned robbers. It sounds like 3 movies when you say it like that.
Yeah. And
then in the 4th section, I suppose, is just all those things kind of colliding, but also kind of not colliding. Like there's lots of things I expected to. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, they're going to go and oh no, they're just going to disappear for a bit. Okay. I mean, my wife called it. She was like, I don't think he's a good guy. And I'm like, well, he's really good at shooting people. And she's like, no, I think he's a baddie. I think he's coming there to rob everything. And I'm like, I don't think it's that. Because it's a revenge film, but maybe. So she, when it flipped, she was like, "Oh yeah, see." But she used to live in France, so maybe that's how. Maybe she saw the original. Who knows? But yeah, it's that. It's not your typical undercover film.
No,
and it's not your typical revenge film.
I was expecting it to be when. Flip, you would jump around, but when Statham does really, really well, and they're like, he's shot before, how's that possible? I'm gonna be like, he's an ex-Navy SEAL who's trained for 20 years.
I'm just a cook.
And also the Andy Garcia thing when he goes, I can only look stupid for so long. I thought he was like
ex-FBI or something.
Yeah, or CIA, and he's sort of put, I can only put the police off for so long. That's what I thought he was. I'm like, oh, okay, and I know where we're going. It's familiar ground, and then it's not what you think it is, and you're like, oh, okay. It's very grey. Everybody's very grey.
Yeah, and it felt like that was almost the thing. Like all these people are the same. They just happen to be doing different roles. Some are doing, some are protecting the money. Some are after the money. Some have fought in the war, but really they're all just wrathful men, I suppose. I don't know if that where the message is. It's like, this is what being a man is like. At one point I thought they called him Wrath, and I thought, please don't tell me his surname is Wrath, because that would be awful. And I realized it was not.
No, it's Hill.
Yeah,
It was
well, he's got 2 names, isn't he? So
Yes, but they keep calling it, because I'm going to call you H. Just going to call you H. I'm like,
massive fan of Steps. That's what it was. Massive fan of Steps.
If you're not in the UK, you've never heard of Steps, that joke means nothing to you.
Sorry. Sorry, it's a tragedy.
Stop it. So someone said Vienna.
Like,
that means nothing to me.
People like they've been away for a while. Yeah, maybe they should just stay.
Anyway. So that was, so we were misled on purpose. He did that quite well. They set up one thing and then they flip it around again. I will say that I liked some of what they did with some of the other characters, even when you think there's one thing again. So when there's the one woman who works in the trucks with everybody else in the depot, and then it turns out she's got a load of money, and I was thinking, oh, she's the insider, or she's crooked, and this, that, and the other. And what they didn't do is what you normally happened. Like if this was done in the 80s, as we always say, gratuitous boob shot and sex scene, and it was like super cut.
He did have sex with her off camera,
but it was but if we didn't get to see it, and it wasn't all like male gaze, but it was super cut. True. So that it ended. She sort of said, "Do you want to get that drink?" And he said yes, and then he wakes up in bed. And she's asleep face down, and that's it. And then he goes into the living room. So they
but from a story point of view, like I just slept with her, so I can get to her house to have a chat with her.
Yeah,
he could have just rung the doorbell. Call me old fashioned. Like your son's just died. Maybe think about something else for a bit. Don't you know? Oh,
he's not a good guy, Pete.
I know he's not a good guy. I know
that's the difference. You'd be like, "Hello, love. Can I come in?"
Have a cup of tea.
All right, then. Can I come for a cup of tea? Whereas he's not a nice guy, Pete. Remember?
No.
Got to get in the mind of the criminal master.
The wrath of his manhood.
Oh, the wrath of the manhood.
So we are going to jump around, but one thing really annoyed me about this film, but it's quite near the end. Am I okay to sort of?
Yeah.
So what I didn't like.
Go on.
So it's like, oh, he's doing an investigation. Oh, he's going to talk to them each in turn. He slept with her and asked her questions.
Yes.
And then not spoken to anyone else at all.
Yes.
Because everyone else has a penis. And then the worst bit for me. So again, spoilers, please go and watch it. Come back. Bullet.
Yep.
Oh yeah, it's me. He's like, what? Yeah, it's me. I thought I'd tell you why. Well, you don't need an investigation. This is quite a long film. We haven't got time for you to go and investigate. I'm just going to tell you for no reason whatsoever. Oh yeah, because you have to help me now. But didn't you think I literally went, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What? The writer in me was just like, no, give him a note. Someone give that man a note.
So,
I don't know if
the film was how long? Let's have a look. The film at the moment is 1 hour and 59 minutes, so 2 hours, right? If they do the investigation into all the other characters, which in theory they should have, that's 2.5 hours.
Or you don't do it at all. Don't ask anyone any questions.
In which case, that comes out, and that works.
He should have somehow worked out who it was, not been told.
Yes, but he has his friend who's the Irish lady who I can't remember, the actress, I'll think of her name in a minute. She had all the information from him, files and everybody.
Yes.
And she found them for him. I would have thought, given all of that and everything else that she could get access to, surely she could have pulled finance records from them and saw that. Now, while the one woman who worked there didn't have a massive jump in her bank account because she had physical cash stored in her apartment, whereas surely Bullet would have been like, why has this guy suddenly got an extra 50 grand in his savings on his salary? And we also forgot to mention Laz Alonso, who plays Carlos, who of course is Mother's Milk from The Boys.
Yes, indeed.
Anyway,
but there's so many people in this film, it's almost like it's hard to keep up.
Yeah, if they did the investigation properly, that's fine. If he'd got his friend who knows everything anyway, can get access to like coroner's reports and footage and all that, surely she would have found out someone was crooked that way, unless Bullet was a genius mastermind, which of course he isn't, because he goes, but it's me.
It
was a bit of a.
You needed for me, the main character, to somehow work it out, even from a subtle thing of like, he's wearing army boots. I don't know, do you know what I mean? Like some little kind of visual, or him to twig before he was told.
There's no clues. If you go back and watch it again, I don't think there are any clues that would be like, oh, it's blatantly, it's obviously Bullet. And I'm like, I don't think it is.
No, the only person I felt it was leaning towards was actually Terry, so the Eddie Marston character, just because he's kind of, I don't know, there was something about him. And they would, when they would say, oh, there's things in inside job, they often would cut to him. So whether it's like a subliminal, trying to get your subconscious thinking it's him.
But they do a red herring by saying Boy Sweat Dave was supposed to be driving the truck that day and he wasn't. And he's like, why? Oh, I was with my mum and blah, blah, and I was ill and I was hungover. So that was a red herring to make you think it was him. And then to make you think he's the inside man. But I wasn't ever fooled by that because he was a wuss at the first sign of danger.
And I guess he had the world's smallest arc. You're a coward, you're a coward, you're a coward. Now you're not a coward for a minute because you've gone out with your gun. But it was, I think with so many characters, like trying to give an arc to anyone was a challenge.
Yeah.
Because you're telling the same story from three perspectives in a way, which is not much ground to cover, but a lot of ground to cover, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Because you've got three things to do at once. I mean, Jeffrey Donovan, who played the sergeant, you know, they didn't give him a lot to do. He's very good at the kind of roles that he's put into of late, and you know, he does that well, and they've just kind of put him on that again. So they showed him as a family man with the wife and the two kids, and there's a couple of little short scenes in there that were quite nice, like all the guys were eating the cake and they weren't supposed to, and he said goodbye to his wife and kissed her and stuff, and then he hugged her again and she was like, I've got to go, and he's like, yeah. But you know,
it's a sort of part that somebody like Scott Glenn would have played if it was like in the early 90s.
Yep.
But they kind of cast for type a bit. So I'm like, let's put the people in these roles that you'll believe in these roles really quickly, because we haven't really got time to let them do very much. You're just going to have to go, oh yeah, they look like an army group of people. And like the really annoying guy who, was it? What do you mean Afghans aren't Arabs?
Yeah.
Well, they're not Americans, are they? That was like
Sam,
cringe.
played by Raul Castillo.
That was a cringe moment.
There you go.
There were some very, I don't know, it's a very taut script and very well put together.
Yep.
But at times there were some really cringeable moments. But again, I don't know if it's like trying to go, this is just like a bunch of dumbass men that, I don't know, it feels like there must have been some deeper message that I may have missed, because like the title sequence was all very arty and very kind of moody. And actually, I think it's one of Statham's better performances.
Yep.
Didn't have much to say, which might have helped. What I do find hilarious always, there's obviously certain people who can't do accents.
Right.
So they go, right, we're filming it in London. Right, okay, set in America. You're a British actor. Can you play an American? You're Irish. Can you play an American, please? Another British. Oh, you're Scottish. Can you play an American? Jason, you're going to be from London. And they call him at the limey and stuff. And you go, okay. It's like, yeah, I don't really do voices, mate.
I don't do that.
I don't really do voices.
He was very good. He was very good. Scott Eastwood, very, very good.
Yeah.
They probably had the most to do. I can't remember the name of the actor. I'm gonna have to look it up. But the one who played Mike, his like number two, was really good with the little that he had. He had very small scenes. I'll find the name. Daryl De Silva.
The guy who looks like a hipster Instagram model.
He looks like
with a white beard.
The guy from Supernatural and Walking Dead. Jeffrey Dean Morgan. He looks a bit like him. He was brilliant, right? He didn't have a lot to do. And once we understood that Jason's character was like, you know, the big boss, and you know, he's badass and he's scary and he's terrifying, and the others were like, we got to tell him this isn't the right way to do it. And Mike he looked so like sick, fed up, disturbed at what they were doing, wasn't enjoying it, knew they were wasting time, but equally he doesn't want to rush his boss because his son's just died. And like, there's that scene where it begins where he goes out to get some water. And I'm like, but it's quite good because there's a couple of scenes that start like that. You don't know what's going on. And it kind of hooked me because I thought I have to focus. Because some films, if I'm bored, I'll pick up my phone and see if I've got any messages. There's a number of these things, but they kind of kept jolting me. So I didn't do that. So he goes out, he talks to this guy. I'm like, who's he? What's this? don't forget your bottle of water. Why? And then he goes back into that building, and it's like a bloodbath, and there's people everywhere, and there's screaming women covered in blankets, and there's a film set that's all messed up, and there's people crawling all over the floor. They kind of walk it through, but they didn't show you any of that. I like the fact that they didn't show you rolling up on the place, getting the guys, shooting them, freeing the women. He just kind of does it in reverse. They start at the end, and then they work backwards through the scene.
Those scenes reminded me of a couple. They reminded me a bit of Luther. And it also reminded me of Daredevil. I think maybe the second series, when Kingpin is just kind of basically just going after everybody. But you just saw the aftermath, or him basically the last bit where he's killing somebody. And you didn't see any of the kind of walking, talking nonsense.
But he was so kind of put on. That guy had to kind of like, I've got to tell him that we've got to stop doing it this way. I've got to do this. I'm really not enjoying this. And he was very good as that kind of world weary, caught in the middle kind of second in command.
I know you're not in a great place right now. I know you've had a difficult time of it, but maybe this isn't the right. I'm sorry. It's like, please don't kill me.
He's immediately just kind of like.
I think as well, you got the weight that he's the only person that could get away with saying that to him.
Yes.
And even despite that, he was nervous. And I think there's some acting moments in this, like you say, that are really, really good. Really good. I just think it's very uneven.
Yeah, I agree.
Really.
It did feel that way at times. It was just like some of the scenes were so tight. And I think I said to you, I was about half an hour or 40 minutes in, and I messaged you and just sort of said, this is not what I expected. Some of the scenes were so lean and so kind of well written and just so kind of sharp. And then later on, as you see, get to the point where, oh yeah, it's me. I confess. Why? Well, we need to for the plot. Oh, okay. Right. I felt like I was on one of the pitch meetings again. And then he just tells him, why? Because we need to get to the end of the film. Oh, okay, sure. Yeah. Barely an inconvenience. Okay.
It would have been so much better, thinking about it, if he like ingratiated himself with him to the point of going, I want in, I've worked it out, it's you, I want in. Yeah. And actually persuaded them to make him part of the crew. That would have made much more, because he is like, the other thing I put a note here is that if you're going to tell someone and go, right, I'm the one, I'm in with them, I'm the inside man, this is what I'm doing, but you've got to help us. Would you choose the guy who is like one of the world's leading action stars, looks like a fucking nutcase, and you've seen him shooting loads and loads of people?
Straight off.
You would have, and Bullet is in charge of who goes in which truck.
Yes.
You'd have swapped him for Josh Hartnett's character and gone, you have to help me or I'm going to shoot you in the knee.
Yeah.
And that would have worked. Like him telling him, and then maybe him telling Statham.
Yeah.
Or sacrificing himself so that Statham knows, and then being no longer a coward would have driven the story forward in the same way, but without it being, like you say, this film, like, runtime, like, it's me, move on. It's like a reverse Columbo. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
It just, there's certain gaps that when you start thinking about it, and normally we'd say it's an action film. They're not to think about. It's just Jason Statham killing people, but it isn't just that this time. It can't be, because of one, the way it's structured. Two, the story's not about that. Three, it's not just it's not Taken. It's not.
But if you think as well, just think about it then, is that so Statham isn't who he says he is.
No.
Bullet isn't who he says he is. The army guys aren't who you say they are. They are veterans, but they're also robbers. So everyone's got this like duplicitous nature. They're not who they are on the surface.
Yeah.
So again, one of them just going, "Oh, it's me," doesn't make any sense. I'll keep going on about this. It undoes like an hour and 40 minutes work, and just go, nah.
I tell you what, I tell you what I did like. Moving on to some.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I really liked the soundtrack, because it made some of the scenes really kind of threatening. The score was really minimalistic, and it was just kind of like tones and repetitions of certain tones that you got to certain moments, and it just heightened the tension. And I felt myself kind of like leaning in, because I thought, what's going to go on? So this isn't good. And it just got really, really dark, and it kept that rhythm at certain moments. So I thought that added to the film a lot as well. It was really good.
Yeah, and I think, like you say, there's such a big cast and doing a lot of them in not many scenes. But I think had it had a weaker cast, I think it could have been a bit of a mess. But I think with a credible director and star, and the approach that they took to it, like cinematography wise and stuff, it did elevate it in some ways, but maybe just not as much as they intended. I think there was some higher purpose that they were going for that I don't think they quite mastered.
What did you think of Scott Eastwood then as a viable, villain and someone to face off as, Statham?
He was good as an actor, and I think he's got that physicality which makes you kind of believe it. And he was a bit younger than some of the other guys. I have seen do you think he's a bit of a loose cannon? I mean, should we keep an eye on him? No, let's just let him carry on. But let's warn him. Hey, you shouldn't have a motorbike. You should live a simple life. I want a motorbike. Never mind. Let's carry on. So, that I found a little bit predictable because you've seen it a lot before. I've lost Steve.
Carry on.
I think he's a very good actor, but I think what he was asked to do was like it was blatantly obvious it was him as soon as like quite early, and I think it would have been nice if it had blindsided you a bit and it had been one of the other members of the crew.
Finding out why he did it though was interesting, because at the beginning we sort of see it happen. We don't know who it is. Statham's trying to find out who it is. We find out it's him, but we don't see why he did it because you don't find out until like the third time. And it isn't that it was the two guards. It was one of them turned around and knocked off his mask, which made him shoot both the guards. And you think, no, that's bad enough. They're both dead. Then, of course, he turns his face and Jason Statham's son is staring right at him and his mask isn't on. I wonder if his mask had still been on, he wouldn't have killed him and then it wouldn't have got into this, but he couldn't let him get away with it and he killed a kid and they're just like, oh yeah, we'll lie low now for it. And I thought, yeah, that's, but it was hard. It was hard seeing it again.
Is that thematic? Like they're all wearing masks, really, Steve? The masks are all slipping. Do you think that's thematic or just a plot point? Could just be a plot point.
I think they're all struggling to hold on to who they are and who they want to be, and they can't find a way forward. Hence why the soldiers are like working in a mall and they're not being rewarded for their efforts, Pete, after they've come back from fighting the war and, all that kind of stuff. And
we said that Scott Eastwood looks a lot like his father. I tell you who doesn't look like their father is the person who played Jason Statham's son.
Well, at least he's English.
True.
It could have been an American playing in English, and you and I would have sat there going, no, that sounds Australian. No.
Are you a young Dick Van Dyke?
I did like the actress who played his ex-wife, or what, and she comes into the office and no, I won't say it, but what she says to him made me laugh for about a minute. I thought she's not going to say that, and she did. That was brilliant. That was so good. It made me laugh. And he's like no reaction. It was just like he's a robot. I laughed at that. Oh God, that was funny. Anyway, but it was more, I went in thinking, this will be a nice, comfortable action film. I know what I'm getting. It'll be a good laugh. And then just the dark spirit. I'm like, what? And then he has have that Bullet has that conversation with Dave about it, which was odd. Looking back on it now, it's still odd, the fact that they had that conversation, which is another reason why you would have thought you would have recruited him sooner, or told him, or he'd worked it out and recruited him sooner. Or
I read one, not a review, because I avoid reviews if we're going to watch something like this, but I saw like a headline thing. It was like, Guy Ritchie brings back the revenge movie and one-liners to action movies. I'm like, it wasn't really one line. It wasn't like Arnie style put downs.
I'll be back.
Really. or shooting people and going, you know, I don't know, stick around. It wasn't that.
Were there any one-liners? Many?
Not really. There were, I guess there was like locker room humor. I hate that expression. Locker room humor, which actually was in the locker room.
Yes.
Banter. Hate that word as well. So it was that, but I don't think it wasn't arch enough. It was quite grounded in its own way. It wasn't arch enough for people to be going, my son's dead, let me make a joke while I shoot you in the face. It doesn't really give that, it didn't really have that energy. It was much more, it's odd because when you're watching a revenge film, for me, part of the joy, I say joy, is, oh, that horrible thing happened, get them. Yeah. And you just sit there going, get them, for like 2 hours. Get them. I would get them. You get them. Yeah, get them. They got them. Then it's over. But I guess this is more, who you got to get? What did they do? We don't know. Oh, mystery, not really a mystery. Or is it? And it's like, it was like a thriller, but with a layer of revenge kind of under the surface almost. I think it deliberately tried to mislead the audience and give you not what you were expecting. And I think they should be applauded for the effort, but I still don't know if it really worked.
Okay. Are we ready to give it some scores?
Yeah, I think we are.
We kind of reached that point where we've talked about, you're like, I think we're nearly there, given what we've talked about.
That's why I slowed down. I was like, we're going to have a really short run time. I'll just talk a little bit slower, which is very not like me. But yeah. Who's going to go first?
I'll let you go first, Pete.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right.
Given what you've just said,
I'm on borderline. I was going to wait for you. So
I know. So given what you've just said about it not being what you want,
slight spoiler. I quite often write down 2 scores and then see what Steve does and then pick one of them.
What? I didn't know that.
Yeah, because I'm no half bags is the rule, but like so many films deserve to be. It's always a rounding up or rounding down exercise for me, and this film is no exception to that. So, what did I like? It didn't give the audience very much at all. I like the fact it didn't dumb down, which most films these days do, and go, I'm going to lead you by the nose.
Correct.
Look at this foreshadowing, so much foreshadowing. It's like, okay, well, I know exactly what's going to happen here. So I like that. It let the audience think. It kind of, but then there's a balance to be had, because some of the things that happened, it didn't quite earn them. But at the same time, it was almost like, well, we didn't let you in on that because that's not how we're telling the story. We're not giving you this. We're giving you this. Oh, no, hang on. No, it's this. And actually, there's this. And then which to me should have made the final, it's almost like a 4-act film.
Yes.
The 4th act should have been one of the most amazing things ever. And I think I've gone on about it a lot. As soon as he went, it's me, woohoo, let's all fight, it kind of lost that poignancy. Right. I think as well, the end almost had that kind of taking of Pelham kind of thing. But it's like, well, do I care about who's that again? Because I haven't seen that person for an hour. And I've forgotten. What are they like? Oh, he's a bit like this, I think. What happens if he dies? I don't really care. Not, but
I mean, if she dies and he dies, but well.
You don't have enough time to invest in anyone bar Jason Statham, really.
Yeah.
And so you kind of got this weird, I've been told this kind of story in building blocks, and now here I am. Well, I hope he gets to kill him, but I'm not. It sounds awful, but I wasn't that worried about the collateral damage. Whereas usually you'd be like, always great example for me is always Point Break.
Yep.
I'm going to spoil Point Break if anyone hasn't seen it. Gary Busey's character Pappas, when he dies, like that still hurts. Just the thought of that hurts, because you've earned that. He's, yes, he's not the lead, but you've built that.
Yep.
You care about him, and even sometimes an incidental character, you'll be like, oh, I know they've got a family or whatever, but he was like, they're the people they work with, and some of them have had speaking parts, and some of them haven't, and I don't know, it's weird. You don't really care about anybody enough, and that, I think, for me, in a revenge film, the key thing is that heightened emotional state of just kind of. But I was just a bit like, I'm thinking more than I would in usually a revenge film. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thinking to the point it almost becomes a little bit sterile and a little bit. It's a little bit of like, aren't we clever? Look what we've done. We've done this story over here, this one over here, and you didn't see it coming, did you? And then again, that flip of like, it was me. And it's like, you're being so clever, and then you're being so stupid. So structurally, I thought it was intriguing, but some of the plot was completely nonsensical. Some of it felt really up to date and really clever, and other things felt super dated. So it was kind of, it's a weird experience watching the film. I'd actually like to watch it again just to see how I feel about it a second time.
Right.
But I'm probably going to just watch the French one and see. I'm hoping in the French one, he doesn't go, c'est moi, je suis le killer. That was bad. I don't think killer is killer in French, is it? Probably not. I apologize to my
the one French listener we have. Thank you.
School teacher, the trick in the books. You might want to edit all that out.
Nope.
So I'm going to watch the French one just to see what's been changed and what's been kept. So scores, that's what you wanted, wasn't it?
Yes.
So I've wavered. I think giving this 2 would be quite rude to the film and the very large cast and the people behind it. But I've wavered of like, is it a 3 based on other films that are out there? Is it more than half good? If you know what I'm saying. So I mean, in many ways, it's a 2.5 because I liked half this film. I didn't like the other half. However, due to the rules of the Bags of Action convention, I'm not allowed to give it 2.5 bags. So I've got to decide whether to round down. If I round down, it puts it with some terrible films we've seen. If I round up, it puts it with some films I'm not sure. I'm going to give it 3 bags. 3 bags. There you go. I've rounded up. 3 bags. Merry Christmas.
Wow, that's the longest ever you've deliberated over a score.
Yeah.
Like 5 minutes on a score.
And I've given it 3 bags.
So I'm
but
going to give 5 bags.
It only scraped by its fingernails. It's scraped to 3.
Okay, I'm going to give it 5 bags, and these reasons why. Not
break friends, never make friends.
So I like that it was atypical. It surprised me. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I went in thinking this is just going to be a shooty, splatty, Taken type film. I liked the different structure, but they kind of over-egged it a bit with the time stamps that were just kind of a bit annoying after a while. The investigation bit could have been handled better. I did struggle with caring about most of the characters, apart from Bullet and Jason's character, because you didn't get to spend enough time with any of them, really. He was the only one that was in almost every scene, apart from the scenes with the soldiers. Yeah, when he took out some of the other soldiers, part of me was like, well, so what? They're the villains and he's supposed to be our main protagonist and I want to see him beat them. But equally, am I supposed to feel bad for them because they're soldiers who've been forced into do this? But actually, they are still robbing people. And I know that only Scott Eastwood killed people up to that point, but equally, they just kind of forgiven him and gone along with it. If they were actually the men that they said they were, of integrity and all the rest of it, stealing's one thing, but they would have killed him, dumped him, and just carried on stealing from people and not, so they weren't nearly as nice guys as they thought they were, just getting what they actually deserved, retiring to an island. I'm like, no, you don't deserve it either. Nobody deserved any kind of happy ending from this film, which is probably part of the point as well of it. But I did like it. I did enjoy it. See, so I'm like you, I'm torn, but I'm going to give it a strong 3 because I can't go to 4, really. It's not quite there. But there's some good things. It was atypical. It surprised me. Statham was good. The action was brilliant, really well coordinated, great choreography. Some of the little bit part characters around the edges were good when they had a little bit to do. I enjoyed that. So it's worth seeing. It is something that I might watch again now because I just know the twists, that I might be able to watch it and watch some of how they do it. And I'm sure there aren't any clues, but I'd be curious to see on a second watching if there were any. But I doubt it. I doubt they were that good in the script, which was good at times when you get past the kind of laddish bits and some of the other bits. There's some cracking moments where I laughed out loud because it was so cutting. But yeah, it's worth seeing. It's definitely worth seeing. I think if you're over Christmas and you need a break and you've got a couple of hours, need a bit of relaxing, pop it on, have a beverage of your choice, a few snacks, keep the kids out, and enjoy Wrath of Man. Okay, so have you seen it? What did you think? Let us know.
Have you just listened to us talk about it and pick it apart, and
now you don't want to see it?
You think, yeah?
Let us know. But that's it for us for 2021. Yeah. We'll be back at some point in the future, perhaps. But if not, don't forget, there are weekly episodes, 5-minute reviews on YouTube. There's lots of episodes on there to go and watch and listen to if you miss hearing us talk about action films. And who doesn't?
Exactly. I've nearly watched every Scott Adkins film, so just make your way through them one at a time.
Yeah, and I've watched all of Henry Cavill's back catalogue, so you don't have to in some cases. And you can hear my reviews of those on there as well. But yeah, so that's it for 2021. But we'll be back at some point in the future. All right, Pete, do you want to wrap us up?
Thank you for listening and or watching, if indeed you still are.
Good night.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Yeah. Good night, everyone.
Arrivederci.